People in. Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to give another minute or so for people to log on in. Hello,
Hey,
Carissa.
Hi.
good to see you.
Howdy there, Dominic. Hey there, Angelique.
Okay. Well, as people are coming in, I'm going to go ahead and bring up today's presentation. I have my light covering my icon that I need to see. All righty. Can everyone see that? Thumbs up from the panel. Okay. Well, good morning. Welcome to Finding Beauty at the Bus Stop, the MCTS Bus Shelter Art Project. And I am your host. My name is Jacqueline Zeladon, and I am the Community Outreach and Internal Communications Coordinator for Milwaukee County Transit System. Public art, it brings social, cultural, and economic value to a community. In a way, public art has a way to unite us. It has a way for us to tell our story in an engaging way. And at Milwaukee County Transit System, better known as MCTS, it really aligns well with our mission. Our mission is to connect the community to jobs, education, and life through essential transit services. And we also have some very strong values, such we value um, equity, respect, excellence, innovation, and um, and we find that with the MCTS Bus Shelter Art Project, it is I guess, the embodiment, if you will, of both our mission and values. And it's a program that we would like to expand with help from you. So this morning, what we're going to do is we'll have some introductions from today's panel, which consists of current participants who have sponsored um, murals at our bus shelters, as well as we're going to hear from two of our panelists. My colleague, Matt Slanker, who you'll meet momentarily, he'll also be sharing with you the history of how we developed the program, and we'll also give you an opportunity to learn how the MCTS Bus Shelter Art Project can be part of your beautification efforts. So we're in for a beautiful time, don't you think? Before we get into the nitty gritty, if you will, I'd like to introduce today's panelists. So we're going to start with my colleague who I mentioned before, and then I would like to have our panelists who are sponsors or participants in the Bus Shelter Art Project introduce themselves, followed by our artists. So Matt, please take it away.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Slanker, and I work with Jacqueline in the Marketing and Communications Department at MCTS. I'm really happy to be here today. The Bus Shelter Art Project is one of my favorite things that we do in the community, so I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yep, we can have one of our panelists. How about Stephanie?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Mercado. I'm with 16th Street Community Health Centers within the Department of Environmental Health. And yeah, I'm just really excited to talk about art, bus, transportation, all the above.
Wonderful. And Tara?
Good morning. I'm Tara Cavazos. I'm the Executive Director of the South 27th Street Business District from Kinnickinnick Parkway to College Avenue. And I'm happy to be here with all of you today.
Alrighty. And Miss Angelique?
Thank you. My name is Angelique Sharp. I am the Villard Avenue Business Improvement District Director. Tara's counterpart in a different district over on Villard Avenue, which is between, on the east, it's Tatonia, on the west, Sherman Boulevard, and then on the south, it's Hampton, to the north, Silver Spring.
Great, thank you. And those are our sponsors. And now our artists who help make all this wonderfulness that we have throughout Milwaukee County. We have Dominic and Chris. I'll let you introduce yourselves individually.
Everyone, I'm Dominic Inoue. I am the Education Director for Teens Grow Greens, but I'm here representing Zip MKE, photography project in the city, and Jane's Walk MKE, which is a walking, talking tour extravaganza, which is coming up. So look for those announcements coming soon.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Caressa Givens, and by day, I serve with the Wisconsin Bike Federation as a program manager for active transportation advocacy. And so when I'm not doing that, I'm making art and designing. And I work a lot with Dominic and Stephanie and Angelique during the day, which is great.
All right. I love that synergy that we have. All righty. Well, we'll be hearing from our panelists in a bit. Now, I'd like to reintroduce my colleague, Matt Slanker, and he's going to share with you the history of our program. Take it away, Matt.
Sure. Thank you, Jacqueline. Hi, everyone. And Jacqueline, thank you in advance for clicking through our slides. You can probably go right to the next one and I can jump right in. I work with Jacqueline in the Marketing and Communications Department at MCTS, and we have a lot of involvement in the community, and this is one of the most exciting things that we can talk about today. So it's hard to believe, but our bus shelter art project started about 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, in summer 2018. It began as a collaboration between MCTS and local artist Libby Olbrantz. She had done some creative projects with public transit in other cities like Sheboygan. So then she approached us here in Milwaukee with some ideas, and those ultimately led to what we now know as the Bus Shelter Art Project, which is what we're talking about today. So to begin with, at the start of the project, we put out public calls for art, seeking designs and styles for the murals. So MCTS and a committee of local artists would then help pick the artwork from all of the submissions that we got, and then arrange for those murals to be professionally printed and installed on bus shelters in Milwaukee County. So the printing and installation was paid for at the time using money that Libby raised through fundraising and collecting donations out in the community. There was even a GoFundMe at the beginning. And actually former Milwaukee County Executive Chris Abley, who is a big supporter of the arts, even personally made a few donations at the start of the project, which helped us launch in a big way and allowed for us to put out a lot of murals right at the beginning. So Libby has since moved on to dedicate more time to other great things in her career. So we obviously thank her for all she did to get this amazing project started in our community. And now MCTS, we're happy to manage the Bus Shelter Art Project ourselves with the support of some great groups and organizations, including many that you'll hear from today. And of course, the talented artists that are in our area who have brought so much to this really cool initiative. So these days, the murals are generally paid for via, instead of specific personal donations and things like that, they're paid for through sponsorships from local business districts, associations, and other groups in the community who are all hoping to help beautify their neighborhood in this really unique way. So in most cases, sponsors, for example, say a business group or a neighborhood organization, they'll commission a specific artist to create a custom design for them to use for these. Or in some case, they might know of an artist that, in their lives, and they might know of some already existing artwork that would work perfectly. Either way, once they've picked the artwork, MCTS will then have to take a look at it just to make sure it fits all of our guidelines, and then we'll approve it. And then we can also work with them to help confirm which bus shelter or bus shelters are available for a mural. Because as you know, there are some that we own, there are some private shelters, so we have to just make sure we pick the right location. And then the sponsor, so for example, a business group or a neighborhood group, will then submit the payment directly to the company that prints and installs these murals. And that's it, really. Then the artwork is up for all to enjoy. There are so many great examples. There are dozens that we've done already. They're all posted, by the way, on ridemcts.com/art. So you can go there and see images of ones that are up right now and ones that used to be up. And you can read about the artists and the title of the work and how it came to be. In addition to what I just mentioned, there have also been a few unique partnerships over the years that kind of came about in slightly different ways. For example, you're going to hear today about some amazing custom metal panels that were installed on bus shelters along South 27th Street or historic Highway 41. So those aren't necessarily the traditional murals that we usually have talked about with this project, but they're so cool and they really help beautify that corridor. So I'm excited for you all to hear more about that later. So as you can see, there's plenty of room for creativity when it comes to this project. Kind of more traditional ways, and then there's room for coming up with creative ideas that kind of thinking outside the box. So I hope you all enjoy today's presentation, and I'm sure you're going to find some inspiration to help bring this cool project that'll help beautify your neighborhood as well. Jacqueline?
Thank you, Matt, for giving us that overview. And Matt will be joining me later when we have our Q&A. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them during our Q&A session. Next, we're going to take a look at some of our recent installations, more so the ones sponsored by today's speakers. These two pieces were done by artist Gabrielle Riveros, and they were sponsored by the 16th Street Community Centers. And Stephanie, she's going to be able to answer some questions about those. And you can see them for yourself at bus shelters located along Oklahoma Avenue, and I can't see the other part, and you'd excuse my charge it to my head, not to my heart. Let's see. Next, this is the shelter that is, you'll actually on various points along Villard Avenue, especially at major corridors. And as a matter of fact, Angelique will tell us about these because I believe that the Villard Avenue bid recently expanded the number of shelters they had. So more beauty to the area. And I'm not to give too much information away, but it's in my neck of the woods. And so I'm really loving the expansion of the art that was also created by two of our artists here today, Dominic and Crescent. So they'll be sharing some of their insights and experiences about how they became involved. And then, you may have even seen this on the news, the murals that were sponsored by South 27th Street Business District Association. So Tara, she will tell us about how her and her colleagues came up with this concept and what it was like to create this and what was the motivator behind creating these particular murals. And excuse me, I'm just gonna keep it real, folks. My cat is sharing desk space with me and she was on my notes, but here we go. So panelists, are you all set? We're going to answer some questions and hopefully inspire others to join you. So for starters, you can, whomever wants to answer first, go right ahead. Be sure to unmute yourself. So for our panelists, how did you learn about the MCTS Bus Shelter Art Project, or from its former name? So who would like to start?
go.
I can start if you like.
Okay.
So for our organization, we didn't necessarily know if we fit in the scope of the art project because we did something a little different to traditionally just placing artwork up. So we worked around it in a different way. We contacted our Milwaukee County supervisor and our local alderman and asked them what they thought of this as an alternative art concept. And we got connected with Milwaukee County Transit to discuss like a new concept to the artwork and having it installed in some of our shelters to beautify the shelters in our business frontages and major corners. So we took a roundabout way and discovered the art project that way. And that's how we brought our concept to connect with Milwaukee County Transit.
Thank you. Angelique or Stephanie?
Basically, I heard about it the way that Matt laid it out. I first actually have a family member that drives for MCTS, whose young daughter is also an artist. So I saw her, she must have saw the post or gotten it early, and she was posted on Facebook and kind of encouraging it, telling everybody that she's gonna have her daughter submit. And this was at the time where I think they were, like he said, they were installing community art. And so I was talking to my executive director, Stephanie Harley over here at Havenwoods about the art. And I was just kind of like, I wonder if we can do that, but like pick our art, because I think at the time it was a couple different options as far as how you could participate. And we weren't sure what will be put on our bus stops, and we're revitalizing our area. You know, it's seen several decades of disinvestment, so it's very important for us to, really have our bus stop or our art and branding representative of our community, representing community pride, things like that. So we just reached out to Matt and Libby, and I worked with them, and they assured us that, we could go a different route. It would just be that we'd have to hire our own artists and pay their fees for the art. And then we'd also have to choose our installer as well and pay those fees. So it was a pretty smooth transition.
Okay, and you touched upon some things. I'm going to have you all elaborate on in a little bit. And Stephanie, how did you learn about the program?
Yeah, so like Tara, it was more of a roundabout way. We're lucky to have been working on the South Side for the last 50 years and have a few different organizations and neighborhood groups that we partner with. And so we're constantly hearing feedback about ways to improve and revitalize areas in the neighborhood. And it's funny, a lot of our residents were complaining about how bus shelters sometimes do attract certain types of crime. And so we were like brainstorming on how can we help improve that? Can we make those spaces look better? And so a lot of our residents were advocating for art in a bus shelter, like making it more artistic. And then after doing more research, I'm like, oh, MCTS is already thinking about this too. So it kind of worked out that way that you're able to partner. And we also already had an art project happening a little further north of where the panels actually were installed. So we already had the art. We just needed the space to continue to advertise the art that we had already created. So the bus shelters were a good option. And then also we were like, hey, bid 50, the business improvement district that's in that area. We were like, if we sponsor one, will you sponsor the other corner? And they said yes. So it was a cool way to partner.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you. For all of you, you were, I'll say, enthusiastic participants, but what made you say yes to participating?
It was a no-brainer for us over on Villard Avenue. I mean, we appreciate, our community, whether you drive or walk or bike or you're in a wheelchair or whatever. We want everybody to have a really good experience. And so we know that people are, going to work, coming from work, going wherever they're going, they're on the bus stops. And I kind of felt like putting the art on the bus stop also gave people that passengers, pedestrians, like a little bit of privacy. I think that was one of it, like kind of art and a little bit of privacy from them in the traffic that might be stopped at a light or something. And, when people are stopping at a light, and I've rode the bus many years, many years going to UWM, and sometimes, after school and stuff, people are pulling up at a red light and they're just kind of looking around while waiting for the light to change. And I kind of was like uncomfortable, like people looking like where she's going and things like that. I just wanted to just kind of relax and get to where I was going. So I thought it was nice to kind of give art. But I think the other component was that Dominic and Carissa and I, the bigger part for us was that we knew that a lot of the riders that are going to be in our community are from our community. Not always, be visitors and whatnot, but we wanted to have familiar faces that look familiar. And so we get a lot of feedback where people like, that's me. I saw you on the bus stop. I mean, I happen to have one of my pictures on there, but that's Carissa and Dominic thing up there in the right-hand corner. I did not commission that or anything like that, but they felt they'll have to explain why they did that.
And they will. Would anyone else like to respond to that question about, why did you say yes to participating?
For our organization, we had multiple things that attracted us to this. One being safety. We're a DOT highway. We have a little bit higher speed limit than your average city street, and we have bus shelters on our curb lines where people are standing. We felt that using artwork with metal would be a little bit more sturdy and resistant, so then plexiglass. So that was one item. The other item was that we we have a beautification committee, and we have a lot of funds to beautification, and curb appeal was a big thing for us, which it continually is. And how can we improve the curb appeal when you're looking at our business properties from the street, and how does it look from the curb line? So beautification was definitely in there. And then our uniqueness. So we're designated as Historic Highway 41, and the Department of Transportation has that branding all the way down our medians with monuments on both ends. So a lot of people don't connect 27th Street with Highway 41. They think it's two separate places. So we wanted to put that there so people can view it on the street as well, on the corners while they're sitting at those red lights or driving through there, and make that connection between the medians and the curb lines.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tara.
And I could just add a small piece. I think for us, we're always looking, as a nonprofit organization, we're always looking for ways to leverage existing projects and projects where community feedback has already been taken or has been accounted for. That way we keep building up momentum. People keep seeing that their feedback is directly impacting the neighborhood. Often there's a lull sometimes between the feedback and the implementation. So this bus shelter project was it had a quick turnaround. Aside from, even though it was being sponsored by like MCTS is a bureaucratic system, just by being a government entity, it was rather simple to go through the process and get everything installed. So that was really appealing as well.
Okay. For our panel, how did you connect with an artist? And you all had different approaches to your final results. So who would like to start?
I can kick this one off. Ours, like I said, we didn't pick an artist specifically for this bus shelter project. It was building off of an existing project we were a part of. So that project was a partnership between the Marquette University's Haggerty Museum of Art, Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District, various neighborhood associations, and we held these artists and scientists-led art walks along the Kinnickinnic River, which is one of Milwaukee's 3 rivers and is located on the south side of Milwaukee. Through these walks, residents were able to give their feedback to the artist that was leading one of the walk that they're participating in, and let them know like what kind of art they wanted to see in their neighborhood. At the end, the artists proposed their artwork, and residents got to pick which one they wanted to have installed. So Gabriela actually won that competition, and her art is representative of the various ethnic groups in the neighborhood and how they told stories about the river. So it's cool because it represents the community that lives there, and then it was also through this very community-led project. So that's how we ended up picking this artist.
Okay.
We picked our artist. We had an existing relationship that we knew him. He is part of one of our neighborhood associations that is connected to our corridor on the east side, and he was on their arts committee, and we had worked with that we work with all of our neighborhood associations, so we already knew of him. So we approached him with what concept we wanted, and if he would make a conceptual design for us that we could mold to be workable into die cutting into the metal. Okay.
And Angelique, would you like to add, or you wanted to save the thunder for Dominic and Carissa?
I love it. Yeah, I'm saving the thunder for them too, because it was just an interesting coming together. I was actually working with both of them on 2 completely separate projects. I was organizing a James Walk with Dominic, and I was on, I believe, like the 30th Street corridor planning team with Carissa. Correct me if I'm wrong, Carissa, when you get on. But anyway, basically, right at the time we were doing those James Walks, we were also doing our strategic plan and our community visioning for Villard Avenue. So like the time just was collaborated perfectly, where it's right at that time we were having like these huge community visioning sessions with stakeholders coming in at the public library, sitting down, doing planning for our strategic plan. And so basically I was talking to Dominic about it, and he told me about Zip MKE. He actually had told me about that, prior, but he was explaining that he is a photographer, and he takes pictures of residents throughout in different neighborhoods, and that could be a concept that we could use potentially. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds really good. And we just met, and then he said he knew of a great graphic designer. I didn't know it was Carissa at the time, but he ended up pulling her into the project. And then, so that's how we all collaborated and did it together. But they can give more details because I wasn't at the table when they were collaborating, coming up, and because they actually presented this to the board, and our board of directors approved it.
Okay, well, I certainly shall. So on standby, Dominic and Carissa. Now, before we talk with our artists, we know public art projects, as well as other beautification efforts, can have a strong impact on the morale of a community. Since your murals, your artworks installation for our organizations, how has your bus shelter artwork made an impact in your community, in your neighborhood?
Ours was on the news. It was on the news, and we did a press release on ours. And we got a lot of really good feedback from our community, our resident groups, our police department, our nonprofits that we work with, and people. I always read through all the comments on the posts just to see how people are receiving it, and it's kind of nice that it drew their attention so much to that, like, this is something new, it's different. In some cases, people thought it was still glass, And because when the sun shines through where it's cut out, it kind of illuminates it. So it was interesting to see all the views on it. But in general, people really commented that they thought it was a really nice improvement, and it added, value to the area. So we are in the process of doing 4 more. So.
Tara, I drive by 27th Street or those shelters all the time, and I was shocked. I was like, this is so cool. I thought it was frosted glass. So anyway,
A lot of people said that, yes.
In our neighborhood, yeah, it's just like I said, it's built momentum. So those folks that were able to contribute their opinions in the other art project were really excited about seeing their ideas in a different part of the neighborhood. In addition, it's brought some color to a rather industrial corner of a corridor. So that's been great. And then lastly, it's also helped strengthen our relationship with the business improvement district, and actually in a way helped lead to a strategic action plan that we're currently involved in to help beautify the corridor and surrounding neighborhood. So kind of related, but and in all, it's been pretty impactful.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you to our sponsors, our participants. And so now we're going to talk with our artists. As I mentioned, as Dominic and Carissa, you can currently see their artwork as part of the Villard Avenue Business District's Becoming Villard series. And like I said, I'm a huge fan because I'm not gonna say where I live, but it definitely brightens up the neighborhood. And it's very is welcoming. I love seeing the smiling faces smiling back at me, something that we need more of across Milwaukee County. So so first, Dominic and Krista, if you could each tell us like about your area of specialty. Oops, sorry. There we go. Yeah, so either Dominic or Carissa can start first. So tell us about your area of specialty, and we'll just kind of take it from there.
I can go first, Carissa, because, I don't know, this is really humbling. I don't know if I'm like, one of those fantastic artists, but I think that we all are artists in our own, own way. So I'll start by that. The 28 zip codes, one city bus shelter there is kind of like the inspiration for some of the Becoming Villard as well. Zip MKE, I started in 2016 as a way to really give light to all 28 zip codes in the city through the faces, places, and experiences, and really help develop my photography skills. I really can't say I'm a photographer, in a professional sense, but I'm certainly have developed those skills over the years. So I bring the photography, and I think I got a pretty good eye. Hopefully Carissa would agree. I think we did some cool collaboration there. How about you, Carissa?
Yeah, actually, Dominic, before you met me, I've always been attracted to that project because I don't think there's anything that can really replace the feeling of the people that you live with looking back at you. And also, it's really important to see, I think initially when I've discovered Zip MKE was photographs in a gallery, but they were like large enough that you could see them from the street. So as an artist who has had a long and formal process in making, I went to the Art Institute here in Milwaukee. There's often this sort of, I guess, threshold or barrier between the people on the outside and the people on the inside of the gallery, just in general. And I've always just been more attracted to making sure that people are welcome to experience creativity and, visual expression. And so I was really attracted to that particular introduction to Zip MKE because you could see the pictures from the outside. You didn't have to enter into the building, which I thought was really cool. I think that was on Pittsburgh. I don't know if you remember that, Dominic, but anyway, this particular piece is just kind of echoing the the one on the lower, the picture on the lower end where it's all photographs. And just making sure that there's an element there of seeing the people that, you know, are a part of this community. It seems like a very simple concept, but it is quite powerful when you know, when you see it over and over again. So that's what I can say about that particular aspect of the connection between the start of Zip MKE and kind of where it's living in this particular space on Villard Avenue.
Definitely. That was really nice to hear, Caressa. I should say, like, you know, that if anything, the project, the Zip MKE project was about really harnessing residents' capabilities as photographers. Any of us, you know, all of us have a phone, you know, with a camera on it, you know, most of us, and like all of us have the capability of capturing the faces, places, and experiences in our own zip codes, our own neighborhoods. So that was really what the project was about, is getting those images out there.
Okay, and that really lends to my next question about your creative process. So now, so Angelique said that she was working with both of you on separate projects. Now, how did you all come to decide this is what we're going to do for the bus shelter? How did that process look like?
I was trying to remember, Caressa. I know we went
So
back.
I was gonna say, Dominic forced me to do all of this. I'm just kidding. He tied me to a chair. No.
I think the impetus was the name. You know, I think like once we like decided that we agreed on this, the concept of becoming Villard, you know, and taking Angelique's and the bid's desire to start to reinvest in the community after so much divestment, and bring beauty. And I knew that, you know, there was lots of different plans and to do that in so many ways. I think the idea of becoming Villard, not like we are Villard, or, you know, like there are a lot of different ways you could approach it, but that idea of emerging from or emerging toward, you know, I think was part of.
Yeah, I would say, just knowing Angelique and working with her in different spaces, I know that she's just a diehard for taking Villard back and, you know, also just putting it on the map. And, you know, that business district is kind of pretty far north from the central city. And I think sometimes in different capacities, it seems like, and with no finger pointing, it can get forgotten. And a lot of commercial corridors in Black and brown neighborhoods are struggling or trying to emerge into something else, something better, and take back agency, I'll say, over their spaces. So that was really inspiring to me. I guess the choices that I made based off of some of the things, the keywords and feelings that Dominic and Angelique were providing for me in terms of like the final concept, really, I'm definitely very inspired by a lot of the sort of collected or used car lots. There's lots of used car lots around that have like these really intense signs that, you know, may have been forgotten about, like from the 50s and 60s, 70s, that are just like really bold. Or you can see remnants of like what was, particularly the Agape Theater. I think it is. Like, I just really like that. I like theaters. The theater, like the big theater signs, really remind you of like, you know, prominent entertainment districts. They're always exciting to look. Like, even as a child, you walk into walk out of a neighborhood and walk onto a little business district and you see a big sign and lights. It's like, you feel like, oh, are we at the circus or something? Like, this is cool. So I really gravitated towards that feeling, and hope for continual growth. I'm like obsessed with the show In Living Color. I love 90s hip hop. That's like, I grew up in white middle class, so the way I learned about Black culture is like just through my dad, because he's Black, and through TV and movies. And I used to like beg to stay up to watch like Arsenio Hall, In Living Color, because I just loved it. I love the Fly Girls. I love the whole culture, and just even the word In Living Color is like very inspiring. It's, to me, it's like, remind you that people are alive here. They like, don't forget about them. Don't abuse the space. This is a place. People have aspirations. They have talent. They have values. And just like, as a Black person, like, this is what I associate with being Black, is just like being bold colors, in living color. I am alive. So that's why I
Wow.
chose that kind of presentation.
Wow,
Oh,
I
sorry.
appreciate the insight. Yeah, that is, and now that you have shared some of your inspiration with the graphic element, I'm like, yeah, okay, I I see. And Dominic, you're about to, I'm sorry for interrupting you. You're about to comment?
No, I think that it was that color palette. I mean, there are so many different versions of that we just looked at, and then and then when we brought it to the bid and to the there was some nice debate about like, is it too bold? Like, should it be muted? Should it be like more like do those colors actually work together? Can they be more floral? It was interesting just hearing the feedback there, and then constantly bringing that back to Caressa. Another thing I remember is just hearing some of the desires for what this could look like was really representing some of the no, I don't think we should be talking about just like becoming Villard as like becoming better. It's like it was kind of returning to what it was, with that theater and with the bustling district and really busy street. So it's like it's becoming Villard, and it's like becoming better, but also becoming what it used to be. And so there was a desire to kind of image, through the photographs and maybe even some of the design elements. So like the theater, the Quasimodo space, the old firehouse, and it just different, maybe it was some of the street lights, but like different parts of Villard. Either I think some people wanted to just take a picture of the theater, just take a picture of this, and I think we really made the case that to do that would, I don't know, it would be like we're just like looking, kind of just in the mirror of the neighborhood, and really, I don't know how I want to describe this. Help me out, Caressa, but like, if we were really looking to the future of Villard, like to show it, to just image a picture of something old wasn't really about that becoming part. I think that's what, I think that's where we were going, is that we don't really need to show a theater that's kind of right across the street already from the bus stop. Let's show something else. And then what we decided to do was image the people, young and old, so that everybody had a chance then to become in the future.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, well, great.
I mean, just lastly, I'll say, when it comes to creative expression, visual expression, it's a very complex thing, and a style is a style, and you can there's a lot of times it's like you either like cilantro or you don't like cilantro. You like Earl Grey or you don't like Earl Grey. I hope that we did some things that incorporated the history of Villard Avenue, but also complemented the direction of Villard Avenue in those graphic elements. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. And I have one last question. Actually, this is not just for our artists, but for our panelists as well, and anyone can respond. How can we encourage more support for artists like Dominic and Caressa and public art projects like the MCTS Bus Shelter one?
I think it's really important for us to support our local artists. I definitely think that this is definitely the time of the artists. They've been out here, creating, and not always been giving these platforms and these opportunities to showcase from people that live that are from the community. So that's been one of the biggest things for me in every project that I've done. I think there will be a place in the future to probably bring in, you know, international artists or national artists, but we wanted to make sure that we put our community first. And so we want the artists within our community to have an opportunity to showcase in their own community. I know I said community a million times, but I think that is really what we did. I mean, we use that same concept with we launched a building mural project last year, and it was the same concept. We wanted to make sure that our first installment was just filled with our artists that are from our community. So we wouldn't want them to feel like we overlooked them. We overlooked your talent. We overlooked that you guys are here to pay somebody else, from somewhere else. And I'm fine with supporting people, but I think that was like the biggest thing for us, was just making sure that we supported the local artists. But also in general, I mean, we are living in a time where it's just a lot, it's a lot going on in the environment. Race relations are strained, relationships in general are strained, the pandemic. And I think art is almost like green infrastructure. It beautifies, it gives a sense of enjoyment and peace. So for us, that is why I would encourage people to consider investing in the art in the community, and showing the people that are in your community that are taking the bus that they're not forgotten. So yeah.
Okay. Would anyone else like to add?
I just think it's important to communication and connections in your area is very important. So you never know who you're going to meet at different community meetings, and to stay involved in what's going around you, because you can talk to people and have conversations around anything, and you may fit in with something they're already considering. Like, how do I make this look better? How do I improve, say, this side of my building even? So, don't be shy about going to your community meetings. I've met people at crime and safety meetings, at neighborhood group meetings, and I have, developed those relationships and partnerships. And sometimes you can get some in-kind work because you have the same strategies or goals. Sometimes you can budget share with people who have a common goal with you. So the residents of that area, whether they be artists or from a local organization, or they work at somewhere in the area, when they all connect and start discussing the area, their thoughts align more than they think.
Mm. Okay.
Also, from MCTS's side, I feel like removing any barriers or increasing communication, that these projects exist and that artists are welcome to share their ideas. And I think even just that original or initial baseline is can be improved, and with any organization, right? But like letting people know that this is a project, continuing to advertise the awesome bus shelters we have already installed, and getting rid of the barriers that might make it a little bit of an intimidating project to someone that isn't already in this world.
Yeah, well, we're definitely continuing to do the work. And as a matter of fact, talking about doing the work, I'm going to share with our participants, our attendees today, how they can become involved with MCTS. Well, for starters, choose a bus shelter. We have two different sets, if you will. We have some shelters that are operated by or maintained by Vector Media. So those would be the ones that you would see advertising from, consumer business PSA type ads. Those are handled by Vector Media, and those are paid for. We have other shelters that do not have any advertising, usually the bubble top ones that you see. So, you choose a shelter, contact us, and we'll see if the shelter is available meaning that it's doesn't need any repair, or if that stop is still going to remain, or if there's any plans to move that shelter to a more high frequency location. So we, choose a shelter. Then you can select your artist and artwork, kind of like with all of our panelists have done with their murals and at their sponsored locations. And so once you have your artwork, you selected it, you have it approved by MCTS to make sure that it fits within our policies, because we can't have, we don't want to have anything that would appear to be an advertisement, such as having a call to action type message. You'll see lots of different examples of art with, say, wording, like with our river gods and becoming Villard. That is more so part of the artwork. So, get the art approved by us. And then you will work directly with the vendor. The vendor's name is called the Brilliant DPI, and they will handle the printing and installation, and they will bill you for the payment. And again, they will install everything. And then afterwards, just enjoy. Your finished piece will be there for not only for bus riders, but for, like, say, pedestrians, car drivers, bicycles, all to enjoy. And that's how you get started. And you can learn more about it at our website at ridemcts.com/art. You can call me directly with questions at 414-937-3253. And there's my email address. That's jzeledon@mcts.org. So now we're going to move into our question and answer portion. I'd like to, before I do that, I want to thank our panelists. I want to thank Stephanie, Tara, Angelique, Dominic, and Caressa for sharing your time, knowledge, and insight. All righty. So I see some questions. Let me go into our chat here. Okay, and again, we will try to answer as many questions as we can. Let's see, and my colleague Matt will be all set, as a matter of fact. Let's see. Okay, how much is a sponsorship for a bus shelter? That is our first question.
Sure. Thanks for the question. So a traditional kind of one-sided mural that you saw with, like, vinyl applied to the glass, similar to the one you can see behind me over my shoulder, usually costs around $750 for one mural. The vendor that is contracted to do this work on our bus shelters will always provide you with a quote, provide the sponsor with a quote before proceeding. So in some cases, you can choose to have a double-sided mural, right? Depending on where the shelter is located. In that case, the price would probably double, or at least approximately double. So again, though, it's always a case-by-case basis, but the average price is generally around $750 for one.
Okay. I think one that we have, I just kind of covered, but can we talk about messaging in the artwork? As I said, we have to make sure that the artwork isn't too advertising like, and that's things such as having a call to action type of message, something that you would see common in a paid advertisement, because we don't want to have that conflict with vector media saying, like, oh, I see that you've done this, but this is in our eyes appearing as an advertisement. So we had an agreement with our advertising vendor, our third-party advertising vendor. But you send your artwork to us, and we can help with the concept, if you will, and messaging, seeing, because we have all the artwork reviewed by a committee, and share with the committee notes, and because we want to help our neighbors achieve their goals with their particular beautification efforts. Let's see. through what dates are submission proposals being accepted and how long will they be displayed? We don't have any submission date for proposals. We keep it fairly open. And in terms of how long the artwork will be displayed, the art, we don't really have any particular timelines unless there's a case, say, that a particular shelter was hit by, say, a car or vandalized. Then, we of course would have to replace the shelter itself. But if you would like to replace the artwork, you'll have to secure the funding to, for the reprint and everything.
And
But,
Jacqueline, I can just add to that, because in today's presentation we're kind of focusing on what sponsors can do, like these neighborhood groups and organizations that you've heard from today, for example. We've had a few cases in the past where when the sponsor is working with their board or to try to secure funds for this project, they might also secure a little bit extra to have as a contingency, just in case the artwork would need to get replaced in the future for any reason, because of course these are all temporary, these are technically temporary art installations.
Right.
So there's no guarantee, obviously, of what hypothetically could happen. So that's up to each sponsor, though, if they want it to be a one-time thing or if they want to have a little bit of money set aside just in case they need to replace it again.
Thanks. Thank you for adding that additional bit of information, Matt. One question is, can artwork include branding or additional information such as identifying the artist? I know that we have, in the past, we will have a special area within the shelter where we list the artist's name as well as, say, like their tagline or Twitter. Matt, can you elaborate on that for me?
Absolutely, yeah. So at the beginning of the project, almost 3 years ago, when we were focusing mostly on individual artists and kind of doing open calls for art, in all of those examples, like the one over my shoulder here, you'll see that the artist name and sometimes like Instagram handle will be actually printed on a smaller decal, either below the mural or off to the side, not actually on the mural itself. It becomes a little bit different when we start working with these neighborhood groups who are sponsoring and commissioning a piece just for them, to use in their neighborhood. Jacqueline mentioned this earlier. We have to be careful of that fine line between what could potentially be considered an advertisement because of our legal contract with Vector Media, who has their own shelters in Milwaukee County that have actual traditional advertisements. So we, historically have tried to kind of, everything is open to interpretation and discussion, of course, on a case-by-case basis, but we've always tried to focus a little bit more on what kind of might be interpreted as traditional artwork as opposed to a specific type of banner with lots of words and photos and calls to action that almost appear like it's an advertisement poster. So we just have to be careful with that fine line and work with the groups and the artists to make sure we're going in the right direction. Because there is always the opportunity, if you have a traditional advertisement poster that you want put up, you can work with Vector Media, of course, to buy ad space on one of their shelters. So this is a little bit different from that.
Okay. Yes. Some of the questions I think we may have addressed. Let's see. Should artists get in contact with a sponsor first? If you know of a particular organization, or you can share your contact information with us and we can act as a conduit, because we don't really have a standing list right now of organizations that are looking for an artist, but we're always happy to help bring people together. Let's see. And it says, how can a project be considered for the bus shelter art project? Matt, how would you take that one?
Yeah, well, you guys have heard throughout the presentation, there's a lot of different types of ways, to kind of come into this art project umbrella. In the past, we worked primarily with individual artists who would submit designs, and then there'd be a committee who would pick an artist. We did that for about the first 2 years, which was awesome. That's where a lot of the bulk of the shelters you see today are from that process. But we've just lately been trying to focus on working with groups like the panelists you heard from today, to kind of focus on a different approach, right? Instead of working with individual artists, working with a group, a neighborhood association, for example, or a bid who might have an artist in mind. So to that previous questions, to your point, if you're an individual artist watching and you want to get involved, even though we might not be doing an open call for submissions, we absolutely encourage you to reach out to maybe the neighborhood group that you live in your area, or anyone else you know, and just help spread the word about this project. Because maybe you can form your own little partnership where you work with that group or that organization or a nonprofit, and you can work with them and they can sponsor a shelter, and you can maybe be the artist for that sponsorship. So there are a lot of ways to go about this. And if anyone ever has any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we can help just kind of brainstorm with you and point folks in the right direction.
Okay. One of our questions is, what is the cost of maintaining the art? After the art is installed, we don't really have what you call ongoing maintenance unless something has happened to it, and then you can decide if you want to replace the art piece.
Yep, and another thing to go with that, Jacqueline, sometimes people ask how long these murals will stay up, and there's really no way, of course, of knowing, because anything can happen in terms of maybe a car accident that damages the shelter, or vandalism, or a number of things. So we have some murals that have been up this full 3 years since the project launched, which is awesome, and they're still in great condition. We've had a few cases where they do get vandalized or maybe damaged by weather or something like that. So we just monitor them, and or if we get a report that maybe it's not looking too great anymore because of damage that may have happened recently, we just have to go out and take a look at it and see if it can be easily repaired. And if not, then of course we have to have that difficult discussion of maybe it's time for that mural to come down, or of course get replaced if we're able to do that, or if the sponsor is able to do that.
Yes. Let's see. Someone has a question about what about an anti-litter campaign? Technically, it could be a call to action. What I'd recommend is, if your organization is interested in doing an art piece that has an environmental theme, please send it to us and our committee will review it and let you know. We'll again can offer suggestions on how to make it art friendly, because again, the emphasis is on art, not necessarily on messaging, if you will, and not necessarily a call to action type messaging. That's what I want to say. So we have, let's see. Yeah, and I think someone had asked, I believe someone asked, how, if you want to see this presentation, how can you go about doing so? Well, we'll make sure that it is available on our webpage at ridemcts.com/art. As soon as we have the link is available to us via Zoom and make it accessible, we'll send a message out to all of our attendees so you can see it and share it with those within your network. And I see that we also have some people who have shared some connections, either organizations and artists. So that's wonderful, wonderful. And any other questions? I'm trying to see if there is anything. One thing I would like to some of the things that people have asked in the past is, what size should the artwork be? And Matt, you know the dimensions roughly offhand, correct?
Sure. Yeah. You may notice that there are different size bus shelters. Some of them are private owned, some are owned by MCTS, like the one over my shoulder. For murals that we're able to put, or for shelters that we're able to put murals on, they're generally either 3 or 4 panels of glass. You can see 3 panels behind me. Some shelters are 4 panels, some are 5 panels. So We will always work with you ahead of time to make sure you know the correct dimensions, so that if this is custom artwork being designed, you know the correct dimensions. Otherwise, you know how much space there is to work with. So every shelter technically could be different. So it's always on an individual basis that we let you know.
Okay. All right. I believe that takes care of our questions. And to learn more about the MCTS Bus Shelter Art Project, contact me. You have my phone number there as well as my email address. And you can also get details about the program at our website. And that's also where you'll be able to find once we get the video loaded, rideMCTS.com/art. Again, I'd like to thank all of our panelists for sharing their time, knowledge, and insight with all of you, our audience. Thank you for being here with us this morning, and I look forward to working with everyone as we encourage more support for the arts as we beautify and unite our neighborhoods. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.